Alright everybody, it is Total Drama Crayfish time. I just put some sinking algae wafers in the tank, and the crayfish must be able to smell them already or detect them in some manner, because they are all coming out and going nuts, and I'm seeing a lot of aggression between them. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them right here within our line of vision currently. Oops, 7. I didn't even see that one back there. And that makes 8 that just popped out over there. So I've got, let's see, I can see 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 from where I'm standing. So I've got at least 14 or 15 crayfish in this tank right now, and I'm really surprised that everybody's sort of settled down. I swear not a minute ago they were grabbing at each other, and one of them, this one-clawed one here, actually looked like it was running trying to catch a fish. And of course when I saw that, that's when I turned around and grabbed the camera. I would love to see one of these actually in the process of catching a fish. I've seen them attempt it. I've seen them take swipes at fish, but I've never seen them actually get a hold of a fish while it was swimming. See, this one here just scored himself a little piece of algae wafer. He's going to hoard that all to himself. Now, it wouldn't surprise me, now that it's got it, it won't take it back to its little cave. It's not usual for them to simply sit out in the open like that when there's so many other crayfish nearby and eat. They usually tend to try to protect their food when they catch it. This is the one I'm most interested in just because it's the biggest and most impressive. It's got a lot of blue and purple in it. Its claws are just magnificent. I can't wait to see what this thing's going to do with those massive claws. Looks like he's eyeing me up. He might be. See, can't you just see him reaching out and just grabbing one of them fish right out of the midwater? And I'm assuming that's how they do it. Again, I've never actually seen them. I've seen them eating the fish, and I've seen fish with damage that looks like they were grabbed and pinched and, you know, slightly ripped and torn open a little bit, but I've never seen the process actually happening. Not sure where this one wants to go. I think it's trying to climb up, but it can't get its walking feet out to where its claws are holding there. Now it's on the glass, and it's really not going to be able to go anywhere. They can't climb up glass. I usually find that big one up on the... you just missed those two back there chasing each other around. I'm not very good at this, am I? I always seem to be looking in the wrong direction when something else cool is happening somewhere else in the tank. This is the one I've talked about yesterday that has the one claw, and it's actually smaller than that big one we just saw. That big one is clearly the dominant one in the tank. And that fish is in a bad spot right between 3 crayfish, and it doesn't look like any of them are that worried about attacking. That poor little guy there backed into one. He didn't even know there was one behind him. These really are just fascinating creatures to watch. I can just sit here and watch these little things crawl around and do their thing all day long. It's like watching a little soap opera. It really is. It's fascinating watching their little territorial disputes and the way they chase each other around. I won't go so far as to say it's like they have their own personalities, because they don't really. They all have pretty much the same personality. They just are aggressive, they dig, and they eat. That's about the 3 main characteristics of any crayfish. They burrow a lot, they eat a lot, and they're really aggressive. Now, when I say crayfish, I forget that there are a lot of different species of crayfish, even here within the United States. These are crayfish to me. When I have been catching crayfish in the stream my whole life, this is what I've always caught, was this species. And I learned recently that this species is called the virile crayfish, and it is actually an invasive. It's not native to North America. And the crayfish that is native to this area, the North American crayfish, is not one that I think I've ever seen unless it looks really, really similar to these virile crayfish. Now, sometimes when I look at them, like if you look at this one, if you look at the carapace right behind the headpiece, you can see how it's just sort of a smooth brown color, doesn't have a lot of patterning on it or anything like that. And then you come down and you look at this one, and it's similar. I don't know why I'm not focusing here. There we go. It's similar, but it definitely looks more like it has some mottling and some speckling and some coloration in its carapace. Its front claws don't look quite so rounded and bulky. But then again, this one's also a much smaller crayfish. As they get larger, perhaps their coloration changes. That's not uncommon at all. And then, of course, as they become more dominant, those claws probably become more pronounced. So for all I know, that may very well be the exact same species of crayfish, even though to me they look a little different. The virile crayfish are also renowned for having lots of blues and purples in their claws and around their joint sections. And you can clearly see that on this crayfish. But then when you come down and look at this one, or even this little one in here, there's quite a few of them in this tank that don't have any blue or purple in them. So I may very well be looking at two species of crayfish in this tank and not really even realize it. So here's another example where I can't really tell. He's got that sort of brown, bland carapace, but I don't see much in the way of blue or purple on the claws. I can see a little blue right between the back plate and the headpiece, if you want to call it that. I don't know what the actual anatomical names for these structures other than carapace. But I can see a little bit of blue in there, so perhaps as the fish ages, the blue will become more pronounced, and it really is the same species of crayfish that I've got all the way through the tank. But I have the little things everywhere now, and it's pretty much time to get in here, and I probably don't need to do a water change yet, but it probably would not hurt to get the glass wiped down a little bit. The algae tends to grow back. There he is, I've been looking for him. The algae tends to grow back on the glass pretty quickly. See, that to me looked like he was making a pretty good lunge for those fish. Which makes me wonder why he's not doing it now. He can just reach up with his claw and grab them. Why run and chase them when you can just wait until you can grab them? I love it when they move backwards as a rule. They tend to walk backwards. When they panic, they flick their tail, and that shoots them backwards very quickly. So when you're walking backwards all the time, you tend to not see where you're going. And in a really crowded tank like this with so many crayfish, it's very common for one to back into another crayfish behind them. And of course, as soon as they do, I guess it's like the crayfish equivalent of getting goosed. And they panic and flee. And then, of course, they probably flee into the one they just bumped, and it usually sends off a chain reaction of crayfish scattering all over the place like cockroaches when the lights come on. So, lots of fun. Really, really cool animals. I definitely recommend anybody that wants to keep them, go ahead and do it. You know, they're really common. They're easy to catch, at least here in America. I can't really speak for other places in the world. But you can catch crayfish pretty much anywhere as far as I know, and they are super, super easy to keep. You can actually keep them in stagnant water if you wanted. Just make sure that the water is not very deep, and make sure that they have access to get out of the water. Make sure there's a rock in there for them to climb up on or something like that, because they will drown in oxygen-poor water, but they can actually go above water and get air to reoxygenate the moisture in their gills. They blow bubbles the same way crabs do. They sort of circulate water out, get it into the air to dissolve some oxygen into it, and then they pull it back in, and they can keep, as long as they stay moist and as long as they have moisture in their gills, they can continue to do that. So you could keep them in virtually any conditions, provided you give them access to the surface and let them be able to get out of the water. Now, in a tank like this, where it's loaded with oxygen and it's, you know, nice flowing water, there's a strong current in there, it's enough dissolved oxygen that keeps these fish alive, that's plenty of oxygen for these crayfish. They have no need to get out of the water, but they can get out of the water if the water conditions are not right for them. Again, very, very easy animal to keep. If you wanted to set up a simple little 10-gallon tank and put one or two of these in there, a few rocks to hide under, lots of fun, lots of entertainment. The only thing I will say as a word of warning is don't keep them with any other fish or animals that you're not prepared to lose. They may let them live, they may not, you never know, but you better be prepared to lose some animals if you're going to keep them in a tank with crayfish, or at least this species. The other thing is they are master climbers. You have to make sure they cannot get out through any cracks or anything like that, and just something like a simple glass hood would probably be enough, but if they could get close to it, like if you had a piece of stick or something that went up near the hood, they would have the strength to actually lift the hood up and crawl out. So take it seriously when you're, you don't have to keep them in there like they're octopus or anything, which can get out of a locked safe practically. But crayfish are climbers, and they're really good climbers, and they are strong. I see them, they move sticks around in the tank, they move small rocks, so they will definitely push any little piece of plastic you've got covering a hole or something like that. They'll simply push that out of the way and crawl right through. So don't keep them with anything you don't want damaged or killed, and make sure you prevent them from climbing out. They'll eat just about anything. They focus on vegetation, but they'll eat dead fish, they'll eat pellets, they'll eat flake food, they'll eat rotten vegetation, they'll eat any damn thing. Super, super easy animal to keep if you're interested in doing it. Anyway, I'm going to call that a video. I got other tanks I got to get around to feeding tonight, and these tanks are always here. I can shoot video like this pretty much anytime I want. I'm just enjoying standing here watching this guy, and I'm really waiting to see something exciting happen, and it just doesn't seem like it's going to. Interesting, yes, but exciting, no. Every time one of these fish swims near it, I just wait for that to be the moment that we're going to get it on film, so to speak. Anyway, thanks for watching. Make sure you're subscribed. You don't want to miss any of the good stuff coming up on this tank. I got other tanks too, but lately I've been obsessed with this one just because it's so interesting and so much fun. I even am able to shoot like some outdoor videos and stuff in conjunction with this tank, since it is a native tank, and I've collected all the specimens in this tank myself. So if you're subscribed, you won't miss any of those videos, you won't miss any of these videos, or any of the ones I've got from around the room. So thanks again for watching. This is my native tank, don't forget. See you real soon in the next one.